Check, check, check. Not on the screen. Let's get this right. There we go. There we go. All right, y'all. Welcome in. Welcome in. Welcome in. Happy Saturday. Welcome in to another episode of Eliminate the Gray. Today, we got Unc and Ocho got it all wrong. They got it wrong. They got it really wrong. We're going to break down how they got it wrong and where they got it wrong. Also, football is back. We got the Hall of Fame game. Trey Lance looked pretty good in that Jim Harbaugh system that they have out there with Greg Roman. So he looked pretty good. So that's promising for a young quarterback in this league. Also, we are going to be keeping receipts. Y'all see it on the screen. This is how we keeping receipts. So we're keeping receipts on teams that needed quarterbacks and how their season's gonna go. We're keeping receipts on all these guys saying next year is a better quarterback draft. We're gonna look at throughout the year. We're gonna look at who these quarterbacks are that supposedly are so much better than the quarterbacks who actually came out in this year's draft. So we keeping them seats longer than we keeping them CVS level receipts. So y'all see it on the screen. That's what we doing. Then, more for today's show, we're going to look at Rob Parker. Rob Parker, he's on Fox Sports. He has a radio show. He is one of the people that I would call a dinosaur in the game. Dinosaur not being based on his age, but based on how he covers the game. He plays word games a lot where he's saying, hey, I don't think this guy's good or I don't think that guy's good. And then someone says, hey, well, did you watch him? How did you have him graded coming out? Oh, well, I don't do that. I don't grade guys coming out. I didn't really watch them as they played. But then you go to speak negative about said player. So I saw that a lot in the pre-draft stuff. So Rob Parker's on UCSS. G. Bush hit him with a knockout question that he couldn't come back from. We're also going to look at Jimmy Haslam's takes. Jimmy Haslam's takes in their press conference that they had, it goes right into confirming some things that I've been saying for months now, just because I've been following the team so closely. Some people don't like what the owner had to say. Some people are not making a big deal out of it. Shedeur isn't tripping, but everybody else is tripping. So we're going to look at that. Coach Prime is back. He goes back on Say What Needs to Be Said with Asante Samuel. He is getting more and more back to looking like himself, speaking like himself, having that energy like himself. So that's always good. Nick Wright, he's changing his tune on Shedeur again. So we're going to get into that and what he said. And then the main event. We got Unc and Ocho versus Jimmy Haslam. And we're just going to break down. I'm just going to break down the three key areas where they got it wrong, in my opinion. Also, we're going to wrap the show up with contenders or pretenders. Two teams I'm naming pretenders already before the preseason start. Didn't plan on doing it this early, but these teams are ran so bad that they just will not make it. They will not make it based on how they ran. So that is the rundown for the show. Just to let you all know, I do have. Oops, let me get my other earpiece in for y'all. So I do have I did do a podcast release. I slowly did a podcast release. I told y'all last week that the name of the podcast is Eliminate the Gray. You can get that anywhere you listen to podcasts. I didn't let you know that it released. So let me get this up on the screen for you. So looking at the screen, you can see that is the cover. You know what I'm saying? It almost looks like I'm dropping. It almost looks like I'm dropping an album or something like that. So that's the way you can identify where the podcast is going to be. So that is the cover. You can get that anywhere you listen to podcasts. So Apple, Spotify, TuneIn, Prime, anywhere, YouTube Music, anywhere you listen to podcasts. Eliminate the Gray. Off the Record D is available wherever you listen to podcasts. You can search for Off the Record D. The the is THA, all one word, Off the Record D. Then also you can search Eliminate the Gray. The podcast will be releasing still 8 a.m. It'll be releasing 8 a.m. on Sunday mornings for the Saturday streams. And then once we get in the grid of things in football season, it will be different times that the other podcasts will be releasing. So that's just there for you. That's so you can see. That is not the description, but that is what the cover looks like, and almost like I'm dropping an album right there. So definitely check that out, and I appreciate y'all for checking that out. All right, so we're not gonna take long. We're gonna get right into this thing. So what do I have to start off with today? Let me get my rundown. Shout out to y'all for being here. So the first thing we're starting out with is there were only a few teams that actually needed a quarterback. And the teams that needed a quarterback coming into the draft, we've identified are the Giants, the Saints, the Steelers, potentially the Colts, the Jets, and the Browns. So those were the teams I really think needed to make a move at quarterback. I know people throw other teams in there because, they try to throw the Raiders in there, but the Raiders traded for Geno, and then Geno, they signed an extension, so I wouldn't throw them in drafting a quarterback early because you're looking at least 3 more years of Geno, so that didn't really make sense. I know people wanted to tie Shedeur and Tom Brady, but I just don't see it. But of those, we got the CVS receipt still going. Let me get that off the screen. We don't need to see that no more. Let's see. Let's go here. All right, there we go. So of those teams, the Saints are the first one we're going to break down. So I didn't break down the New York Giants because Brian Daboll just came right out and said, hey, Jackson Dart's not going to be the starter. So it wasn't really any point in breaking down anything there because he wasn't going to play. So let me see. Let's get this thing going. So Tyler Shough was drafted, number 40 overall, to the Saints. And at that point, he was the second quarterback off the board. So they had their pick. They could have picked any quarterback other than Jackson Dart. They took Tyler Shough. I didn't believe in Tyler Shough. Pre-draft, every year there's a quarterback that kind of just comes out of nowhere, and people fall in love with him. But they never mention him the entire college football season. Tyler Shough was that quarterback this year. So let's see how they're viewing Tyler Shough down in New Orleans. Let's go. Very useful, all the videos I used today.
Tyler Shough has been atrocious at Saints training camp so far. I just filmed a long-form video going through every single practice clip that I've seen of Shough so far. We have 5 minutes of footage here, and it's just been really rough to see. Here is the first clip. This is one of the worst 7-on-7 reps I've ever seen. He's just running around the field. He's not getting rid of the football, and then he's going to run for 2 yards. His accuracy issues have still remained here. Just going to be another very errant throw over the middle of the field. We have yet another instance of him holding on to the ball too long and taking another egregious sack. He's still fading away from pressure and just not good when a defender, even in practice, is in his face. Where's that throw going? Even on some of his completions, it's behind Rashid Shaheed here. He has to come back for the football. Even on this completion, again, to Rashid Shaheed on this out route, the pass is going to be high and inaccurate, so he can't even get 2 feet in bounds. And there's also just been a ton of checkdowns from him, even on 7-on-7, when you're supposed to just try and fit the ball into some windows down the field. We have another clip of Shough trying to go down the field to Shaheed again, but he throws this ball out of bounds. He doesn't even have a chance to catch this one. It's been widely reported that Spencer Rattler has been by far and away the best quarterback at Saints camp, and he could end up being the week 1 starter. And look, I know Shough is a rookie. It's his first NFL training camp, but he's also 26 years old. I thought he was going to be a little bit more pro-ready than what he's shown so far.
All right, so that's Tyler Shough. That's how they're viewing him. Me personally, I didn't see what all the hype was about pre-draft. I always knew that there was going to be somebody who fooled guys and they end up getting overdrafted. It ended up being him. Uh, it doesn't look like he's going to be able to beat out Spencer Rattler in camp. So I would say for an older quarterback. So if you have a guy who's coming in and they're 21, 22, 23, you understand if they don't beat out a second-year quarterback. But the benefit to Tyler Shough was that he was older. He was in college for 7 or 8 years. I don't even know at this point. He was in college for all those years, so you thought you were getting a more pro-ready quarterback just because of his experience. And one thing that I saw when I just looked at him, I looked at the stats, I looked at the games, one thing I saw was he was not dominating. So if you look at anything you started and you've done it for 5+ years, you should be markedly better in that 5th year than you were in year 1 or year 2 or year 3. And once he wasn't dominating guys who were 2nd and 3rd year guys in college, I was like, this is not good. How could I say this guy is closer to NFL ready when he's not even dominating the competition, when he has the upper hand of going through the nerves, going through the ups and downs of seasons? He had 2 seasons prior to this year where he threw for over 100 passes. So it wasn't like every season was 14, 15 passes and then he was injured. He had longer times to go and he just didn't produce. So that I was fooled by the Tyler Shough thing. A lot of people were, and the Saints got to deal with that situation. So that's Tyler Shough and New Orleans Saints. That's just our first receipt that we're pulling, and I'm going to be pulling receipts the entire NFL and college football season. We're going to be looking at Arch Manning. He starts the year out going against Ohio State. We're going to be looking at how he does, because he is ranked in everybody's top 5 QBs. He's ranked in some people's top 5 college players going into the season. So we're gonna keep track. We're just gonna see how he does. I don't know what he is. I don't know what he can be. I have not seen enough of him. Anyone who's telling you they've seen enough of him is crazy, because look at Anthony Richardson. Only played, I don't think he played 20 college football games, and you see how his learning curve is so steep. So the quarterback who doesn't play at least 30 college football games, they tend to not do that well coming into the pros. So we'll see. Moving this thing right along. Football is back. Man, let me tell you. This is one of those moments where you just been waiting for. You just been waiting to see somebody get tackled, waiting to see somebody get hit. I had that game on, and the very first play on the kickoff, the guy fumbles, and it's just like, man, this is football. We spend so much time just talking about, other small things. We spend so much time speculating, but now we get to actually watch the games, break down the games, and the talent is what's going to win over. So I'm just very excited. I'm glad that they did something to the field for the Hall of Fame game, because in previous years, the Hall of Fame game, you barely could watch it because the field was so bad. So I'm glad they actually put some money into the field to make sure it's a field that the guys can play on and not be nervous about getting injured. So that's the Hall of Fame game. Trey Lance looked good. He's really young, actually. I think Trey Lance, I don't think he's 23 years old yet. So he's the age of some rookies that actually came in this year. So he still has a long window. Everybody says that the Browns had the worst trade because they traded for Deshaun Watson. Man, that Trey Lance trade got to be up there too. What the 49ers did. They just lucked up because they got Brock Purdy at the very end, the last pick of the draft, actually. So moving this thing right along. The next thing we're going to get to, whoops, we don't need you. Well, here we go. We're going to get to Rob Parker. Rob Parker is the typical person that I speak about when I talk about football. And I talk about these guys who've been covering the sports for so long, and I call them dinosaurs because they've been getting paid to cover these sports for a very long time. They speak on these sports. The issue is they don't even watch the sports or the players that they speak on. And G. Bush is going to hit Rob Parker with a real question based on what Rob Parker is saying, and Rob Parker is going to fumble it. Now, it seems like Jay and Rob Parker have a relationship from their previous days at ESPN, but I would say Rob Parker is one of the guys who's he's kind of getting pushed out when it comes to media. Not pushed out like he's not gonna have a job, but people just aren't listening to him at the same rate. Just because these guys haven't evolved, they haven't came forward with the times. But they got him on UCSS. So let's hear what he has to say when G. Bush hits him with this real question about Shedeur Sanders.
What was your assessment on Shedeur Sanders from a strictly quarterback playing on the field? What is his skill set? What was your opinion on him as strictly in between the lines at Colorado when he was coming out of the draft?
I'm not a football scout, so I'm always going to that I don't scout talent. I look at highlights, and I look at.
Did y'all hear that? So the reason why G. Bush asking this question is because earlier he was talking about how he views Shedeur Sanders. G. Bush asking this question, what was your evaluation of him? The first thing he says is, I'm not a scout. I don't evaluate talent. So let's play a little game here. You're not a scout. You don't evaluate talent. Why should we take anything you say after that about said player seriously? Somebody convince me. Convince me why we should listen to anything he has to say after that. If that's what he's saying. If he's leading into it with that, I watch highlights. Hey, I'm going to let it play. It's that bad, y'all. It's that bad.
People, I don't know what his footwork is and all that other stuff. So I'm always that guy because I don't play football at that level. But I think his hype was bigger than his game. He beat only one ranked opponent.
So he gonna start going down the playbook of what all the people in the comments say who've never played football, who don't understand the game of football. You don't know if he's good or bad because you didn't really watch the games. You only watched the highlights. But from watching the highlights, you came to the conclusion that his hype was more than his game. So you made it there. Hype is more than his game from watching the highlights. Okay. Then you go into who they played against, who they beat. See, this is the easiest question that you could throw back at these guys who don't do any research. Rob Parker, who are the top 3 quarterbacks in the NFL? I would say unanimously, it wouldn't be unanimous. I would say top 4. The top 4 quarterbacks in the NFL is unanimous. Who are they? Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow. Other than Joe Burrow, who would you say played this hard or this crazy good competition in college? Did Josh Allen do it? Nope. Did Pat Mahomes do it at Texas Tech? Nope. Lamar Jackson do it at Louisville? Nope. You really can only go to Joe Burrow because Joe Burrow's in the SEC. So as soon as they say this, you ask, is it a prerequisite for you to play against top talent in college to determine you're going to be a top QB in the NFL? Then I would say, Rob Parker. Mac Jones was in the SEC, won a national championship game. Does that mean he has the potential to be a better prospect than someone who didn't do those things in college? You got to ask these guys these questions because these guys, what they do is their first statement, they try to cover themselves. That's the first thing they try to do. Well, I'm not a scout. That's protecting themselves. I don't get into the nuance. I haven't played the game. Protecting themselves. And then they come with the diss. But I think the hype was too much. It wasn't worth the game and all the stuff. Okay. When the reality is, as soon as you said those first 2 things, everything you said after that, we don't got to listen to. We save ourselves some time. We save ourselves a lot of time. Because they go into the same thing that people who haven't played the game say. This is off topic, but let me go on a little tangent here. Mike Florio said guys who have a contract dispute, they should hold. They should play the whole season, and then when the playoffs get here, if your team makes the playoffs, you should hold out the playoffs. The first thing I realized was he's clearly never played a team sport. Does he understand the bond that forms as you go through a grueling season, especially in something like the NFL, where people putting their bodies and lives on the line every week for each other, and they going out there for their brothers? At that point, you are so in the thick of it with your teammates. It's no way for money you would sit out then. That's why they always sit out to start the year, and then once they're in, they're in. So these guys, they just show it's certain things you can go to. I don't know what you can go to Rod Parker for when it comes to sports, but at least Mike Florio was an attorney. You can go for him for legal things. But somebody like Rod Parker, I don't know what you can go to him for, because he just summed it up there. He put himself in a box, and that box determines that we shouldn't really listen to him. So that's going to be an L. L for Rod Parker. Go check out the full. Go check out his full interview. It's 23 minutes long. UCSS had him on. This definitely seemed like Jay wanted him on the show because they have a relationship. But this is one of those where you got to read the room. Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show is definitely growing and getting bigger. I would just caution to having washed up people on. I would just caution you for that. Let's move this thing right along. Let's move it right along. So Jimmy Haslam spoke to reporters for the first time since the draft. And to me, this has sparked a lot of outrage and a lot of things that don't make sense. And I'm just going to do what I always do. I'm just going to ask the next level question after people say the first thing. So I got 3 different clips of this interview. This is another about 24, 25-minute interview. So I got 3 different clips, 3 different spots we're going to get to. And we're just going to really see if the outrage matches based on what they actually said in the press conference. So here's D and Jimmy Haslam. I believe it's going to be Jimmy Haslam. Let's go.
The Browns and you are already being linked to Arch Manning. Is this your comment about the buzz, the potential buzz as the season goes along?
Well, Tony, you know you're in the business and you get paid by how many hits you get, okay? And I think if you know the Manning family, I would bet that, and I don't know Arch at all, okay? I bet he stays in college 2 years, so I don't even think that's worth discussing. So.
All right, so Tony Grossi, first question out the gate, he asked him about Arch Manning. I broke this down a week ago. I realized that I'm getting new viewership and new listeners every week, so sometimes I got to go back to things. So even just with my clips, I started putting out, some of my older clips on the weekends just to bring people up to speed on just how my views haven't changed since I've been doing this thing. But the Arch Manning thing, I was saying, hey, it doesn't make sense because Arch Manning has the advantage. He could always go back to school the next year. And a lot of people kind of see it how I see it. Unless he wins the national championship, wins the Heisman, and has just the Joe Burrow-esque year this year, they don't really see him coming out. So it wouldn't make sense to make your plan based on a player who potentially might not even come out this year. So I thought when Colin Cowherd was saying that, it made no sense. I didn't really spend a lot of time on it. Did a quick bit on it on my show, and I was just like, it's not worth going into this too deep. Colin was clearly saying things, trying to see what sticks to the wall, and he got it to stick because a couple people spoke on it. That was the first thing, Arch Manning. Let's get to the next clip.
The need to draft Shedeur after drafting your quarterback in the 3rd round and adding 2 guys.
Well, I think that's really more of an Andrew question, okay? But I think, what was that pick, 146? We thought he was good value at 140.
All right, so they asked, I sound like Tony Grossi again, why did they take Shedeur after taking Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd round? And he says, hey, that's more of an Andrew Berry question. But we thought it was good value. So that was his answer. So one thing that we're going to see the theme of, people are not listening to the full question and full answer. But let's go.
Jimmy, there's been kind of like a national.
Now here's a follow-up question. I believe this is Daniel Fousier. He's saying, hey, there's been a national push or national thing where they're saying you forced them to draft Shedeur. This is his answer.
A narrative that you were the person who forced the Shedeur pick, or maybe the people have called it the owner pick. Well, what would you say to that?
Yeah, listen, we have good process, okay? And if you'd have told me, let's see, we picked him on Saturday, right? Friday night driving home, y'all are going to pick Shedeur, I would say that's not happening. But we had a conversation early that morning, and then we had a conversation later that day. I think we had the right people involved in the conversation. At the end of the day, that's Andrew Berry's call. Andrew made the call to pick Shedeur. Just like who's going to start or what play we're going to call is Kevin's call. But that's Andrew's call. He made the call.
You obviously signed off on the trade.
So if you listen to that full thing, he's clearly answering a question. He kind of answered the first question and said that, hey, that's an Andrew Berry question. When they asked the follow-up and said basically it's a national media narrative that you forced to Shedeur, that's when he went deeper into it. So this was not unprompted. And I'm saying that and I'm using that word for a reason. You'll see why later. I have one more clip from this.
You think it doesn't look like very much. No, I say it's hard, and you make mistakes, and the business world we come in, you can hire anytime you want to, okay? There's no seasonal, there's no draft, and so you can build a team over a period of time, almost at free. There's no draft, there's no free agency, there are no controls, so it's obviously not easy. We made the decision last year to take a step back after last year's disaster and looking at our roster and knowing that we needed a quarterback to do this over a 2 or 3 year period. It's too early to say, but we like our rookie group. We'll know a lot more, after we play 2 or 3 exhibition games and the young guys get to play a lot, but we like the group, and particularly if Q can come back, we like it a lot.
Jimmy, just...
All right. So now, a lot of people are saying, oh, they don't believe Jimmy when he says that about Shedeur. Okay, that's cool. You don't have to believe him. Do you believe him when he says they had to take a step back after last year, how bad things went, and they kind of had their hands in the pot more? Do you believe him when he says that? Do you believe him when they asked him, hey, what have you learned since you've been the owner? And he says, not much because we haven't been good at it. Do you believe when he's saying that? So where's the line where I believe what he's saying or I think he's lying? Where's that line at? Somebody help me find the line. This is for the people that disagree. This is for the people who are saying he's lying, basically. Help me find the line. I don't know where the line is. See, I think where people get into a problem is when you have a person. So a lot of people are coming in new to watching the Browns and they think that Jimmy Haslam is this super polished media personality and all this stuff. That's not it. There's been a lot of different times where he's been speaking on things. His wife is tapping him like, hey. And they're trying to reel him in from not saying too much. So this is not the guy that's super media savvy and knows how to deal with answering questions and all this stuff. That's not it. So people who just want to push that on him, I mean, I don't know why you're giving him that credit because that hasn't been him since he's been here. He said the homeless person is the one that told him to draft Johnny Manziel. What owner would come out and say that? No other owner would say that. They came out and said, hey, big swing and a miss on the Deshaun Watson deal. What owner would come out and say that? Did the new ownership group of the Denver Broncos say that when they ate all that money and ate all that dead cap and let Russell Wilson go? Did they come out and say big swing and miss? Everybody saw it was a big swing and miss. Did the Jets come out and say big swing and miss when they traded for Aaron Rodgers and it didn't work out? Did the San Francisco 49ers, when they traded up and traded that draft capital for Trey Lance, did they come out and say big swing and miss when they did that? None of the other owners did this. He came out and said that. So where is the line where we're going to believe what he says, but, also call him a liar? Where's the line? Because to me, I don't think he is media savvy as people give him credit for. And I think this is him being honest by saying they haven't done well. They had to take a step back. And I think that's the reason why he's making such an emphasis on This is an Andrew Berry decision. Andrew Berry's allowed to do his job. This is his job. This is what he's responsible for. It used to be they didn't used to allow people to do that. Johnny Manziel, during that season, who was our quarterback that we had when Johnny Manziel was there? I believe it was Corey Holcomb, if I remember correctly off the top of my head. They wanted Johnny Manziel to play so bad that they basically told the coaching staff, you have to let him play. Johnny Manziel. That's how he ended up getting to play. Also, a lot of people who haven't been around for the Browns got in trouble for the owner communicating with the team on the sideline about players getting playing time. This was a national story. You can look this up. So this is an owner who had his hands in the pot, and now he's trying to take his hands out the pot because none of the things he tried to do have worked. That's the backstory that a lot of people who are trying to cover the Browns passively to speak on the Shedeur stuff, they don't know that history. And they're just putting their foot in their mouth because they don't know the history of what this owner has did. The only thing they go to is, the Browns had 35 quarterbacks since 99. But you're just lumping all this stuff together. You're lumping in different ownership groups. You're lumping in different general managers. That's what people do who don't really know the details of what they're speaking on. They just lump it all together. The Browns are not like the Pittsburgh Steelers where they have 4 coaches since the 1950s. So you can't just lump it all together there like that. The Browns have went through a lot of different changes. So y'all see the thumbnail. Let's get to Unc and Ocho getting it completely wrong on this topic, and ISO Joe, the basketball player, being the only one who's speaking on the football subject with a level head. So fair use for all the videos I'm using. Fair use. So let's get to it. This is the first one. This is the very beginning of this topic. We're going to let it play.
Felt the need unprompted to tell the media yesterday that Shedeur Sanders was not his pick. Let's take a listen to what the owner...
That far in. We are 7 seconds in, and we already got to give Unc the buzzer. We got to give him the buzzer because I don't know who to blame. I'm going to blame Unc because he said it, but also it might be some additional blame for his producers for writing this up for him and telling him it was unprompted, because if they would have watched 10 seconds earlier in what they're going to show, they would have saw that this was prompted. And they probably would have handled this a little bit differently. So that's the first buzzer we got to give them. So like I said, they got it all wrong. They started off 7 seconds in with it wrong. Let's go.
Had to say about selecting Shedeur.
Good process, okay? And if you just told me, see, we picked him on Saturday, right? Yeah. Friday night driving home, y'all were going to pick Shedeur, I would say that's not happening. But we had a conversation early that morning, and then we had a conversation later that day. I think we had the right people involved in the conversation. At the end of the day, that's Andrew Berry's call. Andrew made the call to pick Shedeur. Just like who's going to start or what play we're going to call is Kevin's call. But that's Andrew's call. He made the call.
Yeah. Who asked him that? Why did he feel the need to share that information, Ocho? Nobody. That's what unprompted. So you dry snitching. Ain't nobody.
Who asked him that? He had 2 back-to-back questions. We watched it. That's the reason why we watched the Jimmy Haslam stuff first. He got the first question about Shedeur. He said that's an Andrew Berry thing. He got the follow-up question about the narrative about him being the one forcing the team to draft Shedeur. Now, I've been in the thick of this. I said a long time ago that I didn't believe this was Jimmy Haslam pick. From the beginning, I've been saying I believe this was Andrew Berry. People don't want to go with that. Now you got the owner saying it. They're saying, hey, I think the owner lying. And then you got Unc over here just completely missing it. The reason why he went way more into detail was because the first time he shot it down and said that was an Andrew Berry thing, he got a follow-up question to it. So this is why they got it all wrong. If they would have watched 10 seconds before when they started their clip, they would have saw how they got here. Now, everything else that they're saying after this It makes no sense. It's all emotional, and there's no logic in what they're saying. The only person who's going to bring logic is ISO Joe. Let's play some more.
Nobody asked you, what round did you think you was going to take Shedeur in? Why did you take? Nobody asked you that.
Yeah.
And so he felt the need. And I get it. Yes, he's the owner. But it's like, I'm like, bro, if you feel this way about Shedeur, why y'all still got the man? Because it seems like every time I turn around.
Man, I never thought I would have a day where I would just be giving giving Unc the buzzer this many times in a row. Now he's saying, why y'all got the man? He was asked a question. He answered the question. If you watch the whole 25 minutes, you'll hear he's going to talk about how Shedeur has been in the building. He's going to be throwing praises at Shedeur with how he's handled himself in the building. But since your team, when y'all put together this subject, they didn't have the time to watch a 25-minute interview to set you up to do this portion of your show better, you out here all wrong. Now you're saying you sounding like a fan. And this is where fans been getting it wrong. They've been getting this wrong for months. So he's saying, why you got that man? He's going to go on to say, man, maybe they should just go ahead and release him and do this. Okay. Let's follow that logic of why do they have the man, and maybe they should go release him or put him on a practice squad and let somebody pick him up. Okay. Was it not 30 days ago everybody was screaming and all these owners colluded against Shedeur and they were trying to break Shedeur and they were trying to prove a point to Coach Prime? So now, since we didn't do our proper research and look into the subject the proper way, we now want said owners who allegedly colluded against said player to pick up this player from the team that actually drafted him. How does that make sense? How does it make sense? It makes no sense. See, the reason why I try to stay away from getting too emotional in these subjects is because you start to go down a path that makes zero sense. So now I want the owners who allegedly colluded against him to save him from the team that actually went out there and drafted him. You're not making sense, man. You're not making sense. And it's been a tough week. It's been a tough week for Unc and Ocho. It's been a tough week. Stuff I'm not going to get into. But this is not making it any better. Let's play some more.
Around Ocho, somebody trying to take a dig at him.
Yeah. Well, I got a question. I have a question for the chat and Unc and Joe. I'm not sure if y'all know, how long has Jimmy Haslam been with the Cleveland Browns?
A long ass time.
A long time. So since 2000, the Cleveland Browns have had 35 different starting quarterbacks since 2000. 35 different starting quarterbacks. But now you're going to take it upon yourself to say that Shedeur Sanders wasn't your pick. And that's probably why it's going to work. Because you had no dealings in him being drafted. Watch how God work. Watch how God work.
What about all them other picks you had? Who picked were they?
His. But he never.
Just all emotion and things that don't matter. You got to stay on point. Stay on point to what the issue at hand is. Like I said, when you get into this just straight emotional side, they're going to get into, after this, I might have set the spot of it, but they're going to say the Browns are trying to break him. So the team that drafted him, when nobody else wanted to draft him, that team is trying to break him? Now, I see this different. I see this as a team who half of the team probably believed in him, half of the team didn't, which is like that with a lot of draft picks. Not just, usually if you got a consensus number one overall person, everybody believe. Maybe 3 guys in the draft, everybody just believe in. After that, it's going to be people who like the player, people who don't like the player. That's normal. If you argued that Shedeur wasn't getting a fair shot and this wasn't a real competition based on Dylan Gabriel getting all the opportunities with the ones and him not being able to see over the line and his completion percentage being lower, even though it's been reports that he's this supercomputer and so good at processing, and Kevin Stefanski came out and said that, his height, they don't see an issue with his height, even though he's already getting passes swatted down. Just the other day, he's throwing the ball to no receiver in the area, had his worst day in camp with the ones and the twos, and he's been repping with the ones and the twos, so it's somewhere he should be comfortable. Now, if you brought those arguments, you cooking with grease. These arguments that they're trying to break Shedeur, it's just not true. It's just wrong. And the easy way to determine that is look at Shedeur. Shedeur just talked to Bernie Kosar. They just released it yesterday. They just had him on mic'd up. They had him mic'd up. They just released it yesterday. When you look at Shedeur, does he believe that they are trying to break him? Or is this the outside narrative that they're trying to break him? Which one is it? I mean, I know what it is. But it's even Unc is going to get to it later, saying he's getting like 1 or 2 reps. When people are covering so many different subjects, I always tell y'all this. When people are covering so many different subjects and they don't do any level of research, ESPN Cleveland put out the tracker every day. He's getting more than 1 or 2 reps in practice. Tracker's there. This stuff is easy to find. You got to do better. You got to do better because y'all are helping people view things the wrong way. Y'all are leading people down the wrong path because y'all didn't do the work, and they're not going to do the work, and they're trusting that you did the work, and y'all didn't do it. So Joe is the only one who's going to come at this with any type of sense. I think I got him in the next clip. So let's get to him. I think this is him right here.
I just like how the young man going about himself, man.
Yeah.
Shedeur. You know what I mean? Like, there's no better way to go about this than keep your head down and keep working, bro. I think he's been doing a phenomenal job at that. Obviously, I think everybody's been keeping up with what's been going on in Cleveland. I know I have. And he looks comfortable out there first and foremost, and he looks like he's still enjoying the game, man. And I think this is just more, fuel to the fire as opposed to it's gonna help him out throughout the regular season or throughout his season or throughout his NFL career in general. So I understand what the owner said, but I think Shedeur is doing an awesome job with all this that's going around. And you can see he's in the community. Not only is he in the community, but he looked like he's playing his butt off. Mm-hmm. Now I don't know how much in it is weight with.
So it took ISO Joe, the basketball player, to break down this situation better than the NFL Hall of Famer and the other NFL legend who should be a Hall of Famer. Because they went at it with emotion, and he went at it just looking at what's happening, what's going on around him, and it's not phasing Shedeur. So if you are defending somebody who's not looking for you to defend them, then you're in the wrong. He not screaming from the mountaintops, hey, I can't take this, hey, this is trash, they treated me bad. He ain't saying none of that. He's showing up, he's doing his job, he's putting in the work. You see the clips, you see the numbers, you see the stats, you see the throws, you see all these things. So they just took so many L's when I watched this, and I watched this live, and I was in the chat saying, this wasn't unprompted. The reporter asked him a question. And, of course, it's Cleveland. So people are not in the weeds of Cleveland sports like I am. So I knew right away when he kept saying unprompted, I knew that he was going down the wrong path and they was going to steer this thing all the way wrong. I knew it from there because he kept saying unprompted, unprompted. Unprompted is totally different than somebody asking you a question. And this is where you got to tighten up. You got to tighten up. Because you're going to be out here looking crazy because you can gain credibility and you can lose credibility. Now, I've been telling you all this. I've been saying this. So the Cleveland media, basically Mary Kay, no credibility. Tony Grossi, no credibility. I'm going to show you all something Tony Grossi did the last couple of days. It's crazy. Losing credibility. But when you got these Hall of Famers and Hall of Fame potential guys losing credibility, it's all bad. It's all bad. You got to do the research to know what you're talking about when you're going through these situations. I think I got one more clip from them. Let's see. I think I had 3. And this is where Unc is getting way more emotional. Let's play it here.
Why did he feel the need to say that, Ocho?
Listen, you know what they trying to do? You know what they trying to do?
Trying to break his confidence?
Trying to break him. They use the draft. Okay, we trying to break him. We gonna make him wait. Okay, now he's here.
So, if they wanted to break his confidence, why would they draft him? Why would they draft him? You tell me. Why would they draft him? Why would they draft him? The teams that want to break his confidence didn't draft him. See, this is where we get into these situations where you have guys who we should be able to lean on their expertise of being in locker rooms and all these things, and they should enlighten us in these situations. Instead of enlightening us, they are rage baiting people because they didn't do enough research. And now you're saying they're trying to break them. Now, if this was if the Browns went through an ownership change, this is Shedeur's third season or something like that. They went through a coaching change, GM change, and you said they weren't vibing with Shedeur. What y'all would be saying would have some validity to it. Less than 6 months ago, they drafted him when nobody else drafted him. Do I think he's getting a fair shot at the QB competition? No. That's why I said last week, hey, this is not a QB competition. Pick the two that you like the most and give them all the reps of the ones and twos, because it seems like if you can't move up and move down based on performance, it can't be a competition. So that's why I said, hey, pick the top two, move forward from there. Now, those are legitimate issues or gripes to have where you say, hey, Kevin Stefanski, this ain't no competition. Because when I have a great day, I should earn something. When I have a bad day, I should lose something. That's how all competitions go. And that's not happening there. So if they were saying that, I'll be with them. I'll be on their side. But this, they're trying to break his confidence and all this stuff. Man, do you know what Cleveland wants more than anything is a franchise quarterback? Do you think they want to see that jersey when you walking down West 5th and you get to the corner? I think it's where Golick used to shoot his show, and it's that jersey with all the list of all the quarterbacks on it since '99, and it's so long and they just keep adding the tape of new names to it. Do you think they want that jersey to keep growing, or do you think they want to find a star? They want to find a star quarterback. That's why they made the trade for Deshaun. That's why they swung and missed on Deshaun. They want the quarterback. The last thing they want to do is to break the quarterback. So these situations, I just look at it and I just can't understand how they are taking it to this point. Now, if the fans took it to this point, I would understand it. I wouldn't give it that much credence, but I would understand it. But guys who are in the league doing this, I can't get with it. They're just wrong. That's all it is. Now, there's other points where you can make that are valid, but in this case, the points they're making are just wrong. Just flat out, they started off wrong. 7 seconds in, they were wrong. ISO Joe is the only one. Even when Ocho said they were trying to break him, ISO Joe said, nah, it don't make sense, man. What we doing? All this emotion. Ocho, you know people in camp. Same way you said, oh, you speak to Denzel Ward, you speak to them boys. Ask them, are they trying to break him? Does he seem broken? So, it's y'all see it here. I didn't think the time would come where I would be disagreeing with Unc and Ocho to this degree, but this was one of those ones where they were so far wrong, and a lot of it was because they started from the wrong base. They started from the wrong base, and from there they couldn't get the thing right on. They couldn't get the train back on the tracks. Started wrong, ended wrong, was wrong throughout. ISO Joe the only one who wasn't falling for it. So, just all the way around. All the way around else. Let's keep this thing moving forward. So, a lot of people speak on Shedeur. I always said people's opinions and people's views of Shedeur will change over time as they see more Shedeur, as they hear more from Shedeur, I said their views would change. Now, Nick Wright is one of those people who, in the beginning, I don't believe in Shedeur. He had a lot of negative stuff to say about Shedeur. He started to change once he started to see Shedeur interact with the media. He started to kind of say, "Oh wait, it's not that bad." Okay, it's not that bad. Gotcha. So let's get it. He is changing his tune again.
Saying that the GM was the one who made that call and not him. So why wouldn't he want to take on such a low risk, high reward situation?
So listen, I think he is just trying to. I don't think he's trying to distance himself as much as what he's trying to do is make it clear, or at least clean up a bit. No, the GM's in charge, not me. Here is what I find so interesting about.
You see how easily he just broke that down? He's not trying to move off of Shedeur or say, hey, Shedeur is not good. He's not trying to break Shedeur. He's not trying to diss Shedeur. Nope. The GM gets to do their job. I got a clip coming out. I might even play the clip early for y'all on here. I got a clip coming out tomorrow. I think it's tomorrow on my YouTube channel. Of him saying, let's see, let's do it live. Let's do it live. Let's do it live. So let's go here. Before we finish what Nick is saying, because that just reminded me of something. Let's go here. So if you're listening to the audio podcast version, what I'm doing is I'm looking up a clip that I made. So I started to dig into the bag of when I really first started doing long stream podcasts, and some of them I had to take down. I had to take them down because like I would play copyrighted music. I didn't know what I was doing, man. I was all over the place. I didn't think I was going to have any intentions on bringing my stuff over to YouTube. So I used to play copyrighted music, and I used to just play clips. And I wasn't doing stuff according to how you should handle it on YouTube. So I had to take some of those down. And since I had to take some of them down, where's that? Maybe I scheduled them on. Did I schedule them on TikTok? Let's see. So since I had to take some of those down, I have clips that if you watched it live when I was actually doing it live, you got to see it. But if you didn't watch it live, you probably don't even know it's available. So let's see. Let's get it pulled up here.
Were you encouraged by the?
Okay, so let's switch this over. And this is one of those clips. Okay, so this is coming out. I think this might be coming out today or tomorrow. This is from my TikTok, but here you go.
The owner to make this move. Jimmy lets us do our jobs. Yeah, Jimmy lets us do our jobs.
Oh, did Jimmy push you to do this? If you look, in all the things that we're showing you, Jimmy was in the back. He wasn't showing no emotion. He was just sitting there. He was there, but he was just chilling. He didn't crack a smile for Junkins. He didn't crack a smile for nobody. So thinking that he came in and pushed him to do that, I would never pick that up from that.
Were you encouraged?
So that was just a throwback there. So this is right after the draft. You hear I got a different mic. Once you see it on TikTok, you'll see I got a different background and all those things. So I've always felt like this. I've always felt like this wasn't forced on. I broke down the videos live of how Jimmy was responding during the draft and all those things. And I believe when they drafted Shedeur, I might be wrong, but I think it was Shedeur. When they drafted Shedeur, Jimmy Haslam was scrolling on his phone, not even paying attention to what was going on. And I believe that was with Shedeur. But I could be wrong, but so that's why I don't believe this was Jimmy Haslam forcing this. That just reminded me of it. And I wanted to show you all that there. So let's get back to Nick Wright and what he's saying.
The Shedeur situation right now. I was not a Shedeur guy. I was one of, I think, the first people in the mock draft community that had Shedeur early in the process, slipping to the back half of round one. talking about that the Steelers might not need to trade up if they need to get him. I talked a lot about how I thought there was too much discussion about Shedeur's personality and not enough discussion about his lack of arm talent. And I just didn't look at him as like a blue chip prospect. So I was not a Shedeur guy. And now, however, because of where he is and the quarterbacks that he is competing with, I find myself feeling like they've got to start him at some point. Because here's the deal. Kenny Pickett is injured and not an NFL quarterback. There is a 0% chance Kenny Pickett is the Steelers' answer at quarterback. 0%. The Steelers, pardon me. There is a 0% chance he wasn't the Steelers' answer, that Kenny Pickett is the Browns' answer at quarterback. So cross him out. Joe Flacco is 40 years old. There is a 0% chance Joe Flacco is their long-term answer at quarterback. So cross him out. Dillon Gabriel, sorry, and you're not going to like this, Demaze, he's too small. There is a 0% chance Dillon Gabriel can be a nice backup, maybe a spot starter. There is a 0% chance Dillon Gabriel is the Browns' franchise quarterback 3 years from now. Shedeur, there is a 5% chance Shedeur is the Browns' franchise quarterback. 5%. More than 1, less than 10, somewhere in there. When the other three guys are a combined 0%, and you're going to be a terrible team, the moment, you can start Flacco to start the year, but the moment that the year has gotten away from you, you got to play Shedeur. And that's the other weird thing. Haslam was like, Andrew picks the players, Stefanski sets the, decides who plays, but then also said in that same soundbite, obviously both young guys need to play this year. I mean, Haslam's not the greatest owner, just flatly.
There you go. So even a person who was skeptical of Shedeur's talent and what he can be in the NFL identifies that Kenny Pickett, I always said I never thought Kenny Pickett was a starter anymore in the NFL. Joe Flacco, I always said I thought he would start the year. I thought he would play those first 4 to 5 games. Dillon Gabriel, I didn't see him from the very beginning. It's a couple different reasons why I didn't see Dillon Gabriel as the long-term answer, as a starter. One, because he's left-handed, and you have to adjust what you do for a left-handed quarterback. He is short, and if you are watching Cam Justice, she puts together great clips or highlights or compilations from training camp of each quarterback. And there are multiple times when Dillon Gabriel's in the backfield and you cannot see him. And there's no way he can see where he needs to go with the ball. So to run an effective offense, you got to move the line. You got to shift the pocket. Unfortunately, when you do that, normally you're cutting off half the field. You're cutting off half the field so you can give him throwing lanes. And we saw that. We saw that with Baker. A lot of people look at Baker now and they just look at him as a more finished product, but they don't realize Baker would get passes swatted down all the time in Cleveland. All the time. So they had to find the right lanes for him. So those are the reasons why I was just like, I don't see it with Gabriel. I also, from the very beginning, I thought Dillon Gabriel was the opposite of everything else you had. So they got two types of quarterback in the room. They have kind of option quarterbacks in Dillon Gabriel and Kenny Pickett. And then they have pro-style quarterbacks in Shedeur and Joe Flacco. And when I say option style, like running the read option. The Browns have been trying to run the read option the last couple of years because of Deshaun. I don't think it works. I don't think you need to run that based on the quarterbacks that you have, because are we really going to really run the read option 10 times in the game, or Dillon's going to run 10 times? If you're not going to do something at least 10 times in the game, it's not really a threat. Are we going to run Kenny Pickett 10 times in the game as a running quarterback? No. So that, to me, that's adding an extra layer of complexity that you don't really need. So I don't see it there. And I don't think that Shedeur can't beat these guys out if he gets a fair shot to beat them out. Long time ago, I realized it probably wasn't going to be a fair shot, and we would just have to wait until Dylan Gabriel did what we thought Dylan Gabriel would do. So if you notice, some people every week they're taking shots at Dylan Gabriel. I'm not really saying much about Dylan Gabriel, and here's the reason why. I don't see him as the long-term solution at quarterback, so there's no point in me just spending every week taking shots at him. He's going to play to the level that I think he could do, which is not better than Shedeur. So I don't have to knock him down or say he's this or say he's that. I will highlight when he has bad days. Like, even Tony Grossi, it hurts him to say Dylan Gabriel had his worst day in training camp, and he's with the ones and twos, and he went 3 for 14, and he threw the interception to no receiver in the area because he can't see what's going on. So it's going all play itself out with guys who I don't think are good. So I don't gotta bash them. Every time they do something bad, I don't gotta say it because I'm not expecting more from them. So that's my approach with the Dylan Gabriel thing. And I think eventually, it's gonna play out, and Shedeur's gonna play. One thing I think could be at play is how you're viewed if your 5th round quarterback does better than your 3rd round quarterback. But it already looks bad because when you drafted the 3rd round quarterback, you went and drafted a 5th round quarterback. So I always said, ask the next question, because people said, oh, they drafted Dylan first. And I always said, okay, they took Dylan first. But if they believed in Dylan so much, why did they take Shedeur? Nobody has an answer to that question. Nobody. Because if you believe in a player, especially a quarterback, where you're not running 5 quarterbacks out there, you're running 1 quarterback. So you can't really make that argument for running back, lineman, tight end, receiver, DB, linebacker. All of those, you put multiple of them on the field. You only put 1 quarterback. So when you believe in one, you start to build around that one. As soon as I did this with Mary Kay. When Mary Kay said if she was a GM prior to the draft, she would take Shedeur at 2, she would trade back into the 1st round and take Tyler Shough. My first thing was, if that's how you feel, you don't take either one of them because you don't believe in either one of them enough. I still feel that same way. When you take 2 quarterbacks that close in the draft, you don't really believe in either one of them as a collective, as a whole. They don't have 100% agreement on Dylan. They don't have 100% agreement on Shedeur. We see that. So I think it's a problem when you do that. But that's that next level question where it's, why did they take Shedeur if they had Dylan Gabriel and they believe in him and he could be this great quarterback? So let's see if there's anything else we need from Nick.
Both of them just saying that this year is like a waste.
Well, I mean, it seems like
both young quarterbacks need to play this year. You kind of have an idea of what your season's about to look like.
Correct, because they have 2 first-round picks next year, and Haslam's a tough guy to work for. Danny's quarterback rankings are.
All right, so that's it for what we got from Nick. Just to put a cap on that, I would say that, to me, Dylan Gabriel is just going to show that the moment is too big. The moment's going to be too big once he has to consistently go against a higher level of talent. Once he has to do that, it's going to show there's too much for him. You already see it in camp. And one thing that people don't question is they always use it as a positive that Dylan Gabriel went to the different colleges. But doesn't that mean that the college brought in another quarterback who they wanted to play over him? Did anybody ever think about that? If you are the guy at Oklahoma, they bring in another quarterback, you shouldn't have to leave and go to Oregon. You should be the guy. So those first 2 stops that you end up leaving, why did you leave? Just something to think about. Now, every once in a while, I just got to drop something out there for y'all to think about. Tony Grossi. So, Mary Kay, there's no point in me putting Mary Kay on the show. I always tell y'all that. There's no point. But Tony Grossi, he's been going through it. Dylan Gabriel had his worst day. And we're just going to look at how he tries to say the reason why Shedeur isn't getting those first team reps is because when they had a drill the other day, when all the cameras were there, Shedeur didn't do well in the drill. In the drill where Joe Flacco ended up leading them to a field goal, and Dylan Gabriel threw the interception on his drill, and Shedeur didn't throw an interception, but they didn't score a touchdown. Now, he said that's the reason. Something he's leaving out of that is during that drill, offensive linemen could not attempt to block the D lineman. So if you find me a game situation where the offensive linemen are not even going to attempt to stop the defensive lineman. So that's how you kind of play with things when you think you're speaking about something that people don't know. That's why we get all these videos. That's why we got, these trackers and stuff like that, because we can't trust these guys' eye, because if we didn't have the video, we would just think, man, Shedeur must have did really bad in that drill. Not knowing the context of the drill was the offensive lineman couldn't touch the defensive lineman. That's why all of the quarterbacks kind of struggled. All of them kind of struggled. Joe Flacco took a long sack, and he had to get his guys back up there for the field goal. Dylan Gabriel ended up throwing an interception. Shedeur just couldn't move the ball, and who can move the ball when a defensive lineman can't be blocked? So to me, it was just a bad drill in itself. But whatever. So as I was talking about this with Tony Grossi, I actually thought about something. So like I said, I'm posting these videos, kind of some throwbacks, and I have a Tony Grossi video dropping tomorrow of when I told y'all, or not y'all because y'all are new, but I said Tony Grossi, he couldn't face the backlash. So this is a throwback. Let me get this thing pulled up here. Where we got it. Let's see. Take you down. Bring you.
What you see, correct?
Hold on. Let's pause that. Hold on. Slow down now. Y'all talking out of turn. All right. So.
What you see, correct?
Well, yes. And then also, when I'm asked my opinion, what am I supposed to do? Of course you have biases. That's what opinions are, right?
The problem is we're not really getting analysis when they are going out there. We're more so getting their personal view and how they feel about these guys. And that's fine for you to give that, but it has to kind of make sense based on what people are seeing. There's a different spotlight that's on the Browns. And last year when I'm saying, hey, you know what? I'm just going to start my channel because I don't believe they're giving me information. I don't believe they're giving me analysis. Now, people who can't give analysis, they're going to be questioned.
What you see, correct?
So I've been on this train of there are going to be times where these guys are going to face questions and they're not going to be able to handle the questions. So that is a throwback. This is me from about 3 months ago when I was saying Tony Grossi couldn't handle the heat. And I said it really early on. I was like, I don't think the Cleveland media is prepared for the storm of attention that they're about to receive. And I remember people in my comments, they were saying, oh, you don't really know what you're talking about. This guy, he's not going to change anything. And I'm like, y'all can't be serious. Everything is changing because Shedeur is in Cleveland. We got this tracker. We did have a tracker in the past. A tracker that we had in the past was a field goal tracker that it was ESPN Cleveland. I believe it was K. York kicking field goals when we drafted K. York. I want to say we took K. York in like the 4th or 5th round, something crazy. We took him early on for a kicker. They were tracking his field goals in practice. So we did have that where they were tracking. But quarterbacks, they haven't tracked quarterbacks. But I knew that the change was coming because I knew the following that Shedeur has. So I saw it, and they weren't prepared for it. I said they weren't prepared for it. That clip is called Tony Grossi Can't Handle the Heat. And he kind of got pushed there, and he said opinions are biased because before or after that, he says, I'm just calling like I see it. There's no bias. But a couple months ago, he's telling you he was biased. So he's not even aligning with what he says. He's saying one thing 3 months ago. He's saying a different thing now. He's all over the place, and he lacks credibility because consistency is not there. So this is going to be Tony Grossi, and they're going to be speaking on why Shedeur is getting first team reps, and this is his answer.
Because NFL Network was there. of the 30-second drive that they attempted to run when Shedeur was on the field the other day. And you would understand why the Browns are bringing him along slowly. And he's just not ready for a live pass rush and to make decisions like Dylan does to get rid of the ball, or Gabriel. I like to use last names rather than.
Ding, 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 ding. So you heard what he used as the meter to determine if he's ready or not. He said Shedeur is not ready to handle the live pass rush. Now, remember I told you all that the pass rush was live, but the offensive line couldn't block them. After he said this, or actually let's also highlight, he said Gabriel's ready to handle this. After he said this, Shedeur, in the next practice, Shedeur went against the ones with the second team offense, and he was moving the ball. He went against the first team defense with the second team offense, and was moving the ball. So Tony Grossi, there, my friend, we're gonna need you to hold this L. That's your first L, because you said Shedeur's not ready. He's not ready, right? Okay, that's your opinion. And like you said, opinions do have bias. That's what opinions are. Remember, your words. Your words. So, I don't got to put words in your mouth. You're going to say enough stuff, you're going to put your own foot in your mouth. Let's get to the next clip. Now, this is the follow-up to Dylan Gabriel having his worst day. 3 of 14 and an interception that he threw to nobody. Let's see how Tony Grossi speaks on it. And also, Tony Grossi is going to say something else that's key. So let's go.
Hey, Dylan Gabriel could ever imagine. Let's go through the numbers then right now. Okay, Dylan Gabriel was got a lot of reps with the ones and twos again.
Yeah.
3 of 14 with 1 interception, although it was disputed. It was disputed, you know.
If it was an actual
one
game,
defender, and then another one caught it at his shoe tops, and it looked like the ball might have touched the ground. Whatever.
Ball didn't touch the ground. It was an interception. Actually, while I'm letting them talk, I might even look for it.
We'll chalk it up as an interception. There was no receiver in the area. That's the important thing. Either miscommunication, misroute, misread, whatever it was. Not a great day for Dylan Gabriel. I mentioned Flacco's good day. He was 9 of 13 with 2 touchdowns, and a really nice touchdown to Jamari Thrash. So that was in the 11-on-11 red zone period. And Shedeur Sanders, kind of a quiet day. I mean, he was 7 of 10. He was credited with a touchdown in 7-on-7 red zone.
He was accredited with the touchdown? He was accredited with the touchdown? Did he throw the touchdown or did he not? What do you mean by that? He was accredited with the touchdown. You see, these are the times where you just use their words. I'm using his own words against him. So he said earlier, I showed y'all, it's my opinion. There's going to be some bias into it. Dylan Gabriel had his worst day. And you talk about Shedeur. First he said all the guys look bad, or all guys on offense look rough. Rough day for the offense. Then Shedeur went 7 for 10, touchdown, no interceptions. And you said that Shedeur was accredited with a touchdown. Man, the bias is oozing. It's oozing through your pores. You know what I'm saying? Can't even hold it in. It's oozing out, that bias.
Didn't get as many reps, obviously, as the other 2 quarterbacks.
So my question here, Tony, on the Dylan Gabriel, look, it's one bad day. He kind of coming off another bad day. It wasn't as sharp as the day before. But he's still getting so many reps. I think that's what we're seeing here. And it's not just their second team. He's getting, if he didn't get more than Flacco, he was right there with Flacco on the first team reps. So at what point, and look, again, it's just one bad practice, but do they sit back and say, all right, let's give Flacco more first team reps because he's the guy who's healthy there until Pickett's back and our vet? Or do you make the case that Shedeur Sanders should at least maybe get some more? Because, look, practice is practice, but 3 for 14, it was a tough day, Tony.
I think we're more likely to see Pickett get more reps with the ones as he returns. And it looks like he'll return tomorrow, probably participate in more stuff. I don't feel the vibe that Shedeur is going to benefit from bad days from Dillon Gabriel. I think they want to get Pickett back on.
So, when I was saying pick the top two that you like and just move forward, and this is not a real quarterback competition, this is the reason why. How can, if four guys are in competition, how can one guy have a bad day, then have his worst day, and the other guy have consistency of stringing together solid days every day, and that person still remain behind the person who had a bad day then his worst day? That means it's not a competition. Because in a competition, you have movement up and down. So how could both of these things be true? How could Gabriel be performing worse, still getting a bunch of reps, and then Shedeur be consistently performing and not get more reps? That means it's not a competition. That's what that means. It's not a competition. So it's a faux competition. You know what I'm saying? It's a faux competition. It ain't real. Let's see. I was looking for something for y'all. Let's see if we need to hear anything else. Let's see if we need to hear anything else from this. Let's get this thing back playing. My bad.
Track. And that's the reason Gabriel got so many reps with the first team was because Pickett wasn't there. So that's what I think is going to happen. We'll see. After they practice tomorrow, morning practice, and Sunday's players' day off, and that's the end of segment 2 of training camp. Maybe they reassess something then as they head into Carolina practice week. They'll have one more practice in Cleveland and then depart for Carolina on Tuesday.
So do you think there's anything Shedeur could do at this point in practice? Or again, we're not in the building, we don't know the meetings, but do you think it's pretty just set in? Like, hey, we're the reps are the reps for that side?
Yeah, I think it's they want to get Pickett back up to speed. He was competing for the starting job, and Shedeur was still listed as fourth. I can't make that change for them. It doesn't appear there's going to be a change.
So listen to what he just said. So he just summed it up. Shedeur was never competing for the starting job. So when everybody is, kind of getting upset saying, how come he's not progressing? How come he's not getting more reps and all this stuff? You just look at it. I'm not saying I don't want Shedeur to get the reps, and I'm not saying I don't want him to get the opportunity. I'm saying it doesn't seem like they're giving him opportunity. And when you have people this close, I'm not saying everything they say is right, but when you hear, so this is something y'all can use. When you hear Mary Kay, Tony Grossi, Nathan Zagura, who else is close to the Browns? The other guy from Locked On Browns. When you hear all of them echo the same thing at the same time, that means people from the Browns are feeding it to him. So if you go back a couple of weeks, just out of nowhere, we start hearing Dillon Gabriel is this supercomputer when it comes to processing speed. That's what we started to hear. And we heard Tony kind of hint at it. We heard Mary hint at it. We heard Locked On Browns. We heard Nathan talking about it. We heard everybody saying that. That means it's coming from the Browns. They feel like they got an inside information, and that's what they put out there. So when you keep hearing everybody saying, oh, they're bringing Shedeur along slowly, that's the next thing that everybody is saying. All of them are saying they're bringing Shedeur along slowly. What that means to me is somebody in the Browns is telling them, hey, he's not about to get a shot. That's what I hear. So, I mean, Tony Grossi, just a little bit biased, but remember he said that Dillon Gabriel didn't throw a pick, or he was kind of weird with his word about it. Let's see. I actually found it while we were listening to him speak. So here it is right here. It's going to replay. This is Dillon Gabriel. you see the grass. You see the grass below this interception. So we got to do this. We're going to do an NFL-worthy slow motion to show y'all to see if we believe Tony Grossi or not. You see that? Who else is doing this for y'all? I got it in slow-mo, super slow-mo. This is what they do when they doing the replays. They be in a replay booth, and they showing it. Hands are under it. That's an interception. I know you don't want it to be an interception because you also don't want to credit Shedeur for having a touchdown. So we had to find that for y'all. Let's keep this thing moving forward. What we have next on the docket? Oh, we got Coach Prime. We got Coach Prime back on Say What Needs to Be Said. So let's get this thing switched over to what we need to see. All right. That's Tony Grossi. What we got here? Okay, those are the two that we showed. Tony Grossi explaining his bias. So we got Coach Prime back on Say What Needs to Be Said. Really good to see Coach Prime getting back to his normal self. He's looking closer to his normal weight. He was really, I had to go back and look at it. The first time he was on Say What Needs to Be Said, he was really down on his weight. He was really skinny. So he's getting back to his normal self. There's two spots that we're going to highlight in this clip right here. So let me just make sure we got make sure it actually looks good on the screen. This is the first clip. Say What Needs to Be Said. Fair use for all the videos I'm using. This is Asante, Samuel, and Coach Prime.
Because I couldn't tell you everything.
Right.
We talked, but I try to lead you down the road so you knew some things.
Yeah, that's
It was difficult, and it's so funny because last time we talked, I kept looking at the screen like, good Lord, he can't see it all. Lost by 20 pounds. Like I look like like Atlanta Falcon Prime back then. Yeah, I dropped by 20. I'm still way down. I'm gonna get it back though.
Yeah. But first and foremost, Coach, man, like I said, our last conversation, man, you're just telling everyone. I didn't realize the moment we were having because I was so caught up in the moment, man. And it's an honor, man. It's an honor. It's an honor for me, despite what you was going through, man, dealing with, man, for you to show up,
but
man.
I had to give you your time, though. You know, we had to get break, but I had to give you your time. It was hell. It was hell. When I saw you, trust me, I went right back out in the bed. It was hell right there.
Just know I am honored. You ain't got to worry. I am honored, highly honored, baby. Hey, I was just so caught up, man, and I was like, what's wrong with it? I'm thinking about A, B, C, and D, and the whole time is F, man.
I just want to jump in and say this. I remember that first time they spoke, and people were in the comments trying to say that Coach Prime was taking subliminal shots at Asante Samuel, saying, oh, his kids never get in trouble, never get in jail, when they were talking about the college kids that he is coaching. And people were trying to read into all these additional things, and what they didn't realize is what Coach Prime is actually going through. So people who... It's a dangerous game to try to read into something when you don't know the full backstory of what's going on. So you can read into, you can see him trying to take subliminals, supposedly, allegedly, but you can't see Coach Prime was down 20 pounds. You can't. I do remember Coach Prime kept his beard a lot, and I was like, dang, that's different. He's keeping his beard up, but I only noticed that, but until I went back and saw, I was like, yeah, okay, you can see the weight that he was down. But that's why it's a dangerous game to try to read into situations too much, because you never know what people are going through. Same thing happened with Black Panther. People were saying, oh, he's losing all this weight and stuff, not knowing he was battling cancer at the time. So, you know, just be mindful and be careful of the things you speculate on, because even if your voice doesn't matter to millions of people online, your voice matters to the people that you have the influence over, and your influence could just be the people in your house, and you could, you know, be saying things that influence them. So you just gotta always be mindful of what you're saying, and you know, your influence, because words mean more than what people think. So let's get back to it.
Man, it was rough, my brother. It was rough. You know, it's so funny though, man. That to this, like my daughter just called me, Shalimar, who's playing basketball, HBCU. She just called me. She's like, Daddy, why you didn't tell me? She actually came to the hospital and came by the house a couple times and saw me, but she still didn't, because we told her it was something about my foot.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
and
that's a funny point. That's a funny point, Coach. And I got to give you credit because we love to give women credit and say how strong women are and they are all these things. But the men don't get the credit. You know, that's very resilient of yourself and man, listen, we got to give the men some credit, man. We got to clap it up for Coach
But
Prime.
they expect us to hold it down. They expect us to hold it down.
Right, but
I didn't want my boys to know. Yeah, I didn't want my boys to know. They got to focus on making teams. Like I ain't want them to do nothing, you know.
Yeah.
But Trav is so funny that, like my son, he flew down because he wanted to see me face to face because I had to show him why I couldn't come to the wedding because I couldn't put these 2 bags full of blood and everything. I'm gonna hide them at the wedding. I couldn't do it. So that's why I couldn't come. So I had to tell him, like, dude, I can't come. I apologize. I can't come to the wedding, but this is why. And when he saw that, he's like, I'll be there.
So that was something I do remember people were speculating on why Coach Prime wasn't at the wedding. And it was just a lot of speculation on some stuff with Coach Prime. And people were so wrong. They couldn't be more wrong. And shout out to Bucky for doing the behind the scenes thing of everything that Coach Prime was going through. Coach Prime wanted him to record it. He didn't even want it to be out there. But there are some moments, if you're watching, you're keeping up with the videos that Bucky's been putting out. The one moment when Coach Prime is saying, man, I got to put together my will, and his voice cracked a little bit. I was like, man, that was tough to hear. Seeing Coach Prime in part 2, where he got the bags and the blood and the fluid that's coming out of his body, it's hard to see. And if you ever seen anybody go through the dialysis, I've watched my grandma go through dialysis, and I even took her to some of her appointments, and you'll see like them going in, and you'll see them coming out, less energy, and it's hard to see. Even in that second episode, it was just hard for me to see because I was just like, man, just what a person's going through and what they're fighting through. Just so glad to see him fight through that. And last point I'll add right here is a lot of people were saying, oh, he should have told his kids. And I think that people who don't have kids say that because if he would have told his kids that, they are starting the next portion of their lives of what they're going to do for the next 10 to 12 years. And if you take that time to take their headspace out of it when you know they're fighting to be there, you could end up with the regret and have to live with that regret that they had opportunities that you kind of torpedoed by putting too much on them. When in reality, it was kind of nothing they could do. So that's always a fine line that people walk when, I'm not saying don't tell anybody, which Bucky knew everything that was going on because he does have, multiple kids. So Bucky knew what was going on, and if things didn't go as how they planned, Bucky could be the one to relay everything. So it wasn't like all of his kids were in the dark, but at the same time, he didn't want to torpedo their situations by making it about whatever he was going through at that time. So I think that's commendable. I think that's a sacrifice that is I'm happy that Asante is saying we got to give you your flowers. We got to clap it up for you being resilient because I think that was the right decision. And also, Coach Prime is saying that's what we're expected to do. We're expected to hold it down. We're expected to go through it and come out on the other end of it. So just seeing that, this is something where if you ever heard emotion from me, this is how you will get emotion from me. Seeing people go through real life situations. You're not going to get that much emotion from me where I'm talking about or speculating on a sport or speculating on a football. So I'm just happy to see Coach Prime doing a lot better. Let's get to the second portion that I want to show from here. It's going to be, at first, Coach Prime is almost going to cut him off, but Asante's like, no. You got to let me get this question out. So let's play it. Let's go.
He think he isn't getting the reps with the first team offense. when training camp first started. And
you know I can't talk about that.
hold on, no. And Shedeur's response was, "It doesn't really faze me. You got to understand, we came all the way from a HBCU top to a Power 5 conference team, and now we're here. So my question to you is, what can you tell us about Shedeur when it's time to lock in and it's time
Hey,
to...
man, he's unflappable. We have been through so much as a family, as athletes, that he is prepared for everything. The only thing that really hurt me, when they started the line and saying he wasn't prepared or he was this or he came in with headphones on, I know my sheep. I know my son. I know what I raised. I know better than that. Shedeur ain't never did nothing stupid like that. Ain't never been nowhere unprepared, ill-prepared. No, if you talk to him, he going to tell you the why. In every situation, he's never gonna be caught out of pocket. Now, yeah, he was speeding. Okay, now
nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect.
We'll check him on that.
So for all the people who the first thing they wanted to do was say, "Oh, would Coach Prime say that Shedeur did something that wasn't right?" Well, you see it there. He said he's not gonna be the person that's not gonna be ill prepared. He said, but he was speeding. So there are times where you get the answer to your question if you just hear people out. He said it. He was speeding. So this is not somebody who is not willing to call out the mistakes, but he's also not going to fall for it when you just want us to believe anything. And now, see, I covered this story so closely about how they were doing Shedeur pre-draft and post-draft. This is my question. Do you see anything similar to how they describe Shedeur pre-draft in Cleveland with Shedeur? Do you see anything similar? Do you hear the Browns talking about not prepared? Do you hear the Browns talking about disrespectful in interviews, combative? Do you hear the Browns saying any of those things? I always told y'all it's an easy way to determine when somebody want to lie to you. When a person want to lie to you, they use something that's not quantifiable. That's why they use the most thing. They use the thing that you couldn't quantify at all because they knew the tapes was never coming out. They said the stuff he did in the interviews. And remember, I messed up this a couple times, but let me get it right. Todd McShay. Am I gonna mess it up again? I am. No, I got it right. Todd McShay was the one who was spreading all that trash about what Shedeur was and did and all this stuff. And we ain't seen no remnants of it. We ain't seen nothing similar to it. We ain't seen nothing close. So now you got to ask yourself the question, were they always telling the truth about that? That's why I always called it out from the beginning. Let's go.
But anything else with his character, it can't be no character flaw for 20-some years, and all of a sudden, it's the character flaw.
It ain't adding up. It ain't adding up.
That's the exact same example I gave. I gave this months ago. I said, so now you want me to believe that a person who's been in the spotlight since he was 5, 6 years old, he don't have all these bad stories out about him, but now I'm supposed to believe that he's this bad guy with no issues. And on the flip side, it's people with reported incidents with the law involving women, involving alcohol, involving drugs. Those people get more grace than a person without the blemishes. It don't make sense. It don't make sense. I'm happy you said that because, I think even at the time that I said, yeah, I'm just this, small content creator trying to put my thoughts and my views out there. And now, even if it's not on a large scale that people don't see or hear it, now you're having the people who are intimately involved in these situations coming out and saying exactly what I said months ago. So I know I wasn't wrong with how I was viewing it. I know I wasn't wrong. So let's get back to it.
All of a sudden, his character flaw? Like, come on, y'all be for real.
Yeah. But I see him in practice, and I see him after practice. He just looks like he's locked in. He's ready to grind. He's ready to show the world. And
he cut from the old school. He cut from the old school, man. Like, he knows hard work pays off. Like you got
There
to
you
work
go.
to earn it. And when I wanted to go down there, because I went to see Charlotte, me and Bucky, we got a plane. Like we're gonna go see Charlotte first, then we're gonna see Shedeur. And he's like, Dad, don't do it. I was like, what you mean? He's like, I ain't where I need to be. I'm not getting the reps I need to get. Don't
Stay
do it.
back.
Don't
Stay
do
away.
it. Yeah,
Stay
he
away,
said,
Dad.
let me do my time. He said, let me do my time in private. You know what he said? Let me do my time in private. I'm doing my time right now.
Yeah, man.
I got this. He said, when you come, hey, it's going to be all kind of bull junk. I said, you know what? I got you.
Right.
Got you.
Yeah.
So we directed the flight and we came on back to Boulder.
So I think that was a very mature response to the situation from Shedeur. And a lot of people try to say, oh, if your dad want to come see you and all this stuff. I remember, I think it was UCSS I was watching, and they were kind of trying to say, oh, it's messed up you don't let your dad come see you. And it's like, do people not understand the process of going from a boy to a man? And as you are a young man becoming the man, you got to go through stuff. And you just want to be locked in and putting in the work. You want to be locked in and putting in the work. And there's nothing wrong with him saying, hey, you going to get a chance to see me, but just let me do what I got to do. Let me do my thing. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that shows a person who is trying to eliminate distractions, eliminate what the media can try to turn it into, with Coach Prime being there. I think people should see the maturity in that response. But, people, man, you have these situations, people miss it. It's right in front of them, and they miss it. They can't see it. So let's just clap it up for Coach Prime. So glad to see him doing better. So glad to see him, just getting back to himself, seeing his contagious smile, hearing his voice, hearing his confidence, hearing that swagger that he always have. And definitely looking forward to seeing how Colorado's going to do without their mega stars and Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders. So definitely enticed or intrigued by what they're going to be. So I'm definitely going to be tapped in like I've always been the last couple of years. The only thing is, man, on the East Coast, they got some games that's going to start to 10:15. And I remember last year's game against Colorado, I think it was Colorado State. Man, that game started, it was almost 11. I'm up here at 1:30 in the morning. Me and my friend, I'm texting him like, what's going on? Like, that's way past the time I go to sleep. So, that's all right, man. We're going to figure out a way to get in, lock in. So that's what we're going to do. Let's move this thing along. Now, I decided that it was going to be some teams that I was going to write these teams off based on how the management and ownership has been going in their offseason. And the teams that I'm writing off, the first team I'm writing off, they're not winning the Super Bowl. I'm hesitant to say they won't win a playoff game, but they got the potential to not win a playoff game. That's what I'm going to say now, because it's so early, because we don't know about injuries and all that stuff. But definitely not going to be Super Bowl contenders. Definitely standing on, this is speculation, but I'm standing on it. The Dallas Cowboys will not win the Super Bowl. The Dallas Cowboys will not make the conference championship. The Dallas Cowboys will not win their division. And this is not football related. This is based on how management is running things. This is how management is running things. Now, Jerry Jones has been very bad as a GM. He has paid every single guy more than they should be paid. And he could have, at some point, you got to take the chance of playing the star player early, because as guys are signing, it's going to add up. They had a chance to pay Dak earlier than they did. Nope, we got to give you $60 million a year. They had a chance to sign CD before they did. Nope, we got to bring you into the discussion of highest paid wide receivers. Now they could have signed Micah. They could have signed him last year. They could have signed him this offseason. The mistake that they made is waiting. They're negotiating with him, so clearly they want him there. The reports are out that they're not even listening to trade offers unless it's something that's going to blow them away. So clearly you want him to be there. Why didn't you pay him? You waited. This was the wrong offseason to wait to play superstar pass rushers. The Browns I'm going to tell you, a win is a win. When the Browns go to pay somebody, especially a pass rusher, they threw monkey wrenches in all these teams' plans because Max Crosby, I want to say, got $35.5 or $36.5 million a year. They jumped that and gave Miles $40. Now, who does that affect? Michael Parsons wasn't signed. Trey Hendrickson wasn't signed. TJ Watt at the time wasn't signed. So all those teams got a monkey wrench because they waited to pay. When they could have paid before Max Crosby signed. They could have did extensions last year. Waiting to the last minute is a poor way to make decisions when running a business, when running a team. And when you do that, you handicap yourself. So somebody was saying, oh, Jerry wants to do this so he can say he's paying people at the top of the market. No, he don't. Because then he wouldn't complain about the risk of signing guys if he wanted to sign them at the top of the market. So it doesn't even match. But now I was watching something with Michael Irvin, and Michael Irvin was saying, man, it's crazy that he's looking at this situations with Micah and hoping Jerry can, fix the situation. And he was like, Jerry Jones even told him personally, a deal's not done until a deal is done. And Jerry Jones is trying to hide behind the fact him and Micah had an agreement, and Jerry Jones didn't want to talk to Micah's agent. It's not going to work, man. So for that reason, I'm going to make this very clear. This is not a Browns compared to the Cowboys. The Browns ain't making the playoffs this year unless we get some miracle. So this is not a Browns-Cowboys comparison. If you want to take shots at the Browns, feel good. Do what you got to do. This is strictly about the Cowboys in this segment. The Cowboys will not make the Super Bowl. The Cowboys will not make the conference championship game. The Cowboys will not win their division. I'm standing on that. Clip it up. I'm even going to clip this up and put this out on TikTok, YouTube, wherever you find me, so you have this and you can come back to it and you can say you were right or you were wrong, because I'm standing on something. I've been telling y'all for weeks, you got to stand on something. I'm standing on this, and this is due to poor management of the Cowboys. Next, another team. We got Trey Hendrickson. First he held out. Now he's holding in because he was getting fined $50,000 a day that he can't get back. Now he's holding in, and they're hesitant to sign him. They took forever. Cincinnati Bengals, they got Chase and T. Higgins done, but they did some shady stuff in T. Higgins' contract. Shamar Stewart eventually caved on the guaranteed of what they were saying, but he got more money up front as a bonus. And then I suspect that they're going to do the same thing, and they're going to cave and sign Trey Hendrickson to a rework deal. To me, when you are this slow to make decisions, and these are decisions that you could have made earlier and sooner, you are a franchise that's not going anywhere. This is crazy because I got Joe Burrow, my top 3 QBs going into the year, and they're going to have a great offense, but their defense is not going to be good. They had a really good slot corner in Hill. I think he signed with Miami, so their defense is not going to be the same. And their defense has been taking hits. They were losing. Their secondaries got ravished. They lost their safeties. Their pass rush is not going to be the same. They lost their their top middle linebacker, who was a tackling machine in Pratt. So their defense is not going to be good. I don't see them doing big things. They're going to put up points. I don't see them stopping anybody's. So we're going to run this thing down again. Cincinnati Bengals not making the Super Bowl. Cincinnati Bengals not making the conference championship. Cincinnati Bengals not winning the division. I'm saying it. I'm stamping it early. I'm putting the clips out for y'all. I'm standing on this. You got to stand on something. Y'all can hold me to this. Those 2 teams are the first to make my pretenders list. The first 2 teams. And y'all know I keep them receipts just like CVS, so y'all can keep them receipts on me. So shout out to y'all for being here. I think this was another great episode, another banger of an episode. This will be releasing 9 a.m. on my YouTube channel for video review. 8 a.m. Sundays, this will be releasing on everywhere you listen to podcasts. So anywhere you listen to it, Apple, Spotify, YouTube Music, whatever you do for podcasts, this is on there. Definitely tap in. Definitely check it out. This is a good hour and 45 minutes of a great episode. Us breaking some things down. Us eliminating the gray area that people like to hide in sports, and us picking a side. So definitely tap in. Off the Record D. Eliminate the Gray podcast. This has been a great episode. I will catch y'all on the flip side. Peace.